And tonight, Jason has brought with him his friend, John, and John will give us a short testimony later. And John is, he's got a really powerful testimony as well. So I really look forward to hearing from them. And we'll just start with some worship songs, and John will lead us. Thank you.
So our first song's Goodness of God. Let us stand.
I love you, Lord. For your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands.
The moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing
of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your voice, you have led me through the fire, the darkness night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. goodness of God, of the goodness of God.
We're going to sing the second song. And please remain stand. The power of your love.
Lord, I come to you. Let my heart be changed, renewed, flowing from the grace that I found in you. Lord, I've come to know the weaknesses I see in me will be stripped away by the power of your love. Hold me close, let your love surround me. Bring me near, draw me to your side. And as I wait, I'll rise up like the eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love. Lord, unveil my eyes, let me see your face, to face the knowledge of your love as you live in me. Lord, renew my mind as your will unfolds in life, in living every day by the power of your love. Hold me close, let your love surround me. Bring me near, draw me to your side. And as I wait, I'll rise up like the eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love.
So please be seated.
Since I've been introduced earlier already, myself and Brother John, I think I can start the sharing tonight. So it's really a joy for me to be here to share with you on this topic, raising resilient children. I thought I will start by introducing my family to you, as you can see on the slide. And of course, all those who are watching online, good to meet all of you too. Now, this photo was taken a few years ago, so now my children are older. There's my daughter, my son. Do you think my son is taller than me or shorter than me? How many here say is taller? Okay, now he's 10 centimeters taller than me. And I remember one time I spoke in school to a group of parents, and I told them I have two children. At the end of the talk, one father came up to me and said, "Jason, I thought you said you have 2 children. How come I saw 3 children in the photo?" And so I went home and told my wife about it, and she was smiling throughout the night. By the way, the one next to me, looking at me, that's my wife. Because my wife is a dear friend of Sister Pixuan here, and that's how I got invited, and that's how my book got translated into Bahasa. So the topic tonight is raising resilient children. Now let me also introduce myself, the work that I used to do. If you look at the next slide. Yeah, so you can see I wore the uniform before. In fact, this afternoon I visited one of your prisons here and met some of the prison officers. Now that's me. That was in 2006. That was more than 15 years ago. So I spent 17 years in the prisons as a prison officer, not as a prisoner. I also spent 6 years in this ministry called Social and Family Development, where I look after all the youth at risk, the young offenders, the child protection cases, all the children's homes in Singapore. So I was there for 6 years. And I think as a parent, as a father of 2 children, and also working with a lot of prisoners, youth at risk, many families, very challenging problems, I learned something about the importance of parenting. So I'm going to share with you 7 lessons, in the next half hour, after which I will pass the time over to John to share his story and the importance of parents. And then we have Q&A after that. Now, 7 lessons. The first lesson is do not outsource parenting. I learned this lesson from talking to prisoners. Initially, when I met as a young prison officer, I will talk to them about their tattoos, what gang they belong to, which tattoo means what gang. And then I talk to them about the drugs, where they get the drugs, where they hide their weapons. But after a few months, I got bored with that. I got tired with that. And I started to talk to them about their family, talk to them about their childhood, talk to them about their parents, their father, their mother. And by listening to their stories, I realized that if I ever become a parent, at the time I wasn't even married. And I told myself, if I ever become a parent, I must not outsource parenting. In a company, if you are working for a company, what do we outsource? We outsource the non-core business. The non-core, those work that is not so important. Let other people do it. The core business of a company, we will do it ourselves. Family at home. What is the core business of parents? Parenting. So that's not something that we can outsource. That's something that we need to take on and be responsible for and learn how to be a better father and a mother. So that's the first lesson. Do not outsource parenting. Now, I want to show you a short video clip, and then I will share with you the second lesson. Let us watch this video clip. Let's watch this video clip. I was laughing, like some of you, and I realized after a while I was laughing at myself and laughing at many other parents who have set high expectations for our children. I think expectations is good. Nothing wrong with expectations. Our parents have expectations of us. We have expectations of our children. But sometimes the expectation is so high that it's almost impossible to meet. Now, the lesson I want to share with you is train up a child in the way that he should go. It's from Proverbs 22, verse 6. So that when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, so important, right? Even in church, we preach about this. We have discipleship classes. teaching parents how to train up a child in the way that he should go. Now, the problem is this. When I was a young parent, I thought this verse meant train up in the child in a way that I want him to go. Train up the child in a way that my wife and I want her to go. But this verse is not supposed to be interpreted this way. It says, train up the child in a way that the child is supposed to go, in a way that God has intended for the child to go. Now, let me explain to you just using my daughter's story. Now, this is my daughter. Do you know this photo was taken when she was 12 years old in primary school? The most important exam in Singapore is primary 6 exam. Every primary 6 student will have to take that exam, and it is called the PSLE, Primary School Leaving Examination. Very important exam. There are parents that will take leave, they will stop work just to help the child to do well in this exam. So that was the results day, the day where she collected the results. You look at us smiling. Do you think good results or bad results? Good results, right? Quite good, quite good. She got 2 A+ and 2 A's, exactly what she prayed for. Now, of course, after that, she went into a very good school, and that was when she started to go down and go down. You know, sometimes going to the best school may not be a good idea. And she couldn't cope. She started to fail in some of her tests and her exams. And then she started to say, Dad, how come my friends don't have to study, get so good results? How come I study so hard? How come I'm not getting the results? She was pretty depressed at one time. And I began to, as a father, as a parent, what do? Do I say, Yala, you know, you're so stupid? Or do I train her up in the way that she is supposed to go? So I spoke to her, I said, dear, you're not good in maths, you're not good in science, you're not good in biology. And then she looked at me, she said, Dad, I know, what are you trying to say? And that was when I said, but you're good with children. You know, in the cell group from church, whenever we come together, the children always love you, always want to play with you. You're good with children and you have compassion. Remember, whenever your friends have problems, when they need some counsel, they will come to you, right, to talk to you, right? You can be a good counselor. And you have leadership qualities. You are the vice captain of your CCA in school. Then she felt better. Then suddenly she looked up at me and she said, Dad, but the school never give marks for all these things. I said, that's true. The school never give marks. If you're good with children, then the school never give you marks for that. If you're compassionate, the school never give you marks for that. But as a parent, I have to encourage her, right? So I said, but in life, these are very important skills. In life, these are very important. And then she said, okay, Dad, thank you very much. And she went to study, and finally she finished her A-levels. She didn't do too well, but I sat down with her. I said, Sarah, since you love children, maybe you can do something with children. Since you love children, you don't have to be a professor, you don't have to be a doctor. And then I started to expose her to a kindergarten, to children with special needs. And finally, she decided to do speech therapy so that she can help children who stutter, stammer, who have special needs. And finally, she did graduate. In fact, she did very well because of her passion for children. You know, so that's why I would say that we train up a child in the way that they are supposed to go. Maybe they are not good in this, maybe they are not good in that, but maybe they're good in something. And as a father and mother, we need to help them to find what they are good at, what God has created them to do. Now, I like this cartoon in the next slide. And let's look at that. You know, it says, for a fair selection, everybody has to climb that tree. Do you think it's fair or not fair? You know, every child is gifted differently. We cannot compare one child with another child, right? And, you know, from the genius himself, from Einstein. You know, Einstein is the genius of all genius, right? You know what he said? He said everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. You know, so as parents, we need to help our children to discover their talents, their gifts. And it may be very different from another person because God created us differently. Some of us may have 1 talent, some may have 2, some may have 5. And so the lesson 2 is train up a child in the way that he should go, in the way that God has intended for her to go. not in the way that we want them to go. I hope this is a good lesson. Now, the third lesson, let me explain why this photo. You know, my son, now, of course, he's doing very well. He's an army officer. He's in university studying. But when he was young, I wanted to help him to learn how to swim because I don't know how to swim because my dad, my mom never taught me how to swim. So I suffered when I went for national service, but I want to help my son to learn how to swim. So went for swimming classes, and finally one morning, he was supposed to have a swimming test. But all his lessons were usually in the evening, not very crowded, the pool. But during the test, all of them have to line up at the side of the pool, getting ready to jump. And he was like the smallest boy in the whole group of boys and girls. And when the tester said, 1, 2, 3, jump, when he jumped in, and I realized that before long, he was right at the back, and all the older boys, older girls were in front kicking. You know, they're supposed to swim one lap, right? 50 meters in order to pass. And he was struggling because all the water from all the older kids, the legs were splashing and kicking, and went into his face. He has his goggles, and suddenly he realized that he couldn't swim so well anymore. And worse still is early in the morning at 7 o'clock when they have the test, the water was very cold. Normally, when he was having his lessons, it was like 4, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and it was nice water, not crowded. So I was standing there in the middle of the pool, and all the other parents were there. We were looking at our own children. But of course, everybody started to look at my son, the last one. And I came near to the pool, I looked at him, I thought, oh dear, will he make it? Maybe he can't. And then the instructor was, of course, shouting, he said, come on, Samuel, you can do it. And then I was looking at him, and my son was swimming, looking up, looking at me. I was looking at him, and he's like, I can see his face was so scared, you know. When he looked at me, you know what I saw in his face? He was asking me a question. He was asking me, Daddy, can I try again another day? Can you give me permission to fail today? I saw that coming from his eyes, from his face, and I started to wave to him. It's like, I didn't say come, I said come, you know, just wave to him to come to the side of the pool, to give up, to stop, try again another day. And of course, when he saw me doing that, he said, he wanted to swim to the side, and then the instructor shouted, go Samuel, don't give up, go. And then I asking him, give up, come, give up, you know. And then of course, all the other parents look at me, it's like, what's wrong with him, right? How come I should be saying, come on, do it, right? But I asked my son to give up. And so by the time he came near to the pool, I reached out my hand, I pulled him out from the pool. Quickly, I went to the side behind, make sure nobody saw us, nobody saw him, and then sat him down. I removed his goggles, and he broke down crying. He was shaking and cold, and he was crying. And I sat there with him, I said, it's okay, son, it's okay. It's okay. We can try again another day. And the most comforting words I said to him was, not bad already, Daddy cannot even swim. At least you can. Well, 3 months later, he passed the test. You know, I think the lesson here for all of us is, in the next slide, sometimes we may need to give our children permission to fail. You know, God is a wonderful God. When we fail, God is always there for us. You know, the prodigal son, when the younger son squandered everything, left, but when the son came back and repented, the father was there to receive him. Sometimes we need to give our children, we hope that in society, we can be more compassionate. In fact, this book, you know, that I've written, Treasure of Society, is about God giving us second chances. It's about God giving prisoners second chances. Now, the next question I'd like to ask all of us, you know, what values do you want to pass down to your children? You know, a lot of us want to pass down valuables, but I think the most important thing to pass down may not be valuables, but values. Because if we pass down valuables without the valuables will disappear very fast. What values do we want to pass down? I'm not sure about you. Some of us, when I talk to different parents, they say integrity, very important. Some may say compassion. Some may say hard work, you know. I think all these are very important. In fact, there was one time when I spoke in a church, someone raised a hand and he said, want to pass down the Bible. Everything in the Bible, this parent want to pass down. I think as Christians, we do want our children to have everything that the Bible wants to teach them, right? Now, let's look at this video, and the answer will be found in this video. Let us watch. Let's say between husband and wife, we agree that we want to teach honesty. If we want to teach honesty, then as husband and wife, we need to model honesty. If we want to teach compassion, then as husband and wife, we need to be compassionate so that our children can watch us being compassionate to other people. So the best way to teach values is to live out those values. Now, lesson number 5. I think now in a highly sexualized world, we need to teach our children God's design for sex, marriage, and children. Now, let me explain. Where does it come from? It's actually from the beginning. When God created Adam and Eve, when God created us in His own image, He created male and female. And then He blessed them, He said, be fruitful and multiply. Basically, He is telling man and woman to get married and have children. Now, which means in order to have children, we must have sex. And sex is a beautiful thing. But the world, of course, have contaminated it. And so now we find it very difficult to talk about this to our own children. But it is something that we need to teach our children. Now, let's look at the next slide. So if we follow God's design, there will be sexual ethics. But if we follow our sinful nature and desire, there will be sexual revolution. And if you watch the Netflix, the Disney, the videos, the YouTube, you know now there is a sexual revolution. But as Christian parents, we need to come back to God's word and sexual ethics. Now, what does it mean when we say sexual ethics? If you watch football, in a game of football, there will be a referee, there will be linesmen, there will be offside, there's a certain way to play the game. Sexual revolution basically means I don't want the referee, I don't want the rules, I don't want the lines, I just want to play whatever way I want to play. I just want to kick the ball around, no lines. Now that will be chaos. That is not the way to play the game. Sexual ethics means we play within God's design, God's rules, God's ways, right? And let me, in a simple way, explain to you, because this can be a complicated matter. Now, first, children. God said, be fruitful. That means have children. In order to have children, we will need to, male and female will need to have sex. But if you want to have sex, it has to be within marriage, right? You have to get married. So it's sex within marriage. Anything outside is outside the line. It's like you kick the ball outside the line. That is a foul, right? Now, why is this important? Because marriage is important, because it keeps the father and the mother together, the husband and wife together, for the sake of the children. You can see the arrow pointing down. So children needs the mom and the dad to stay married so that the child have a mom and a dad. Now, that's where you see procreation. Before this, procreation, there's children. Pleasure is the sexual act. Marriage is meant to be permanent. Now, this is sexual ethics. This is what God has intended. But what's happening now? Now, we are having sex without children. We don't want the children. So that is the pleasure without the responsibility. And of course, now with contraception, with the pill, we don't need to have children. We don't have to worry about children. We can prevent children from happening. But what if there is a child? What if the contraception doesn't work? Then we may have a child. Then, of course, nowadays, with sexual revolution, we don't want the child. That means abortion, right? Pleasure without the need to look after children. What about sex without marriage? If you can look at the next slide. Yeah, that means pleasure without the commitment. I just want the pleasure, but I don't want to commit to a long-term marriage relationship. And that is how we start to break apart God's design. And of course, when that happens, you will have, Now, then we will devalue marriage, we will devalue children. And so God's design will break apart. I hope this, in a simple way, help you to understand the importance of having the three in one together. Next slide. Now, lesson 6. Okay, I mentioned 7 lessons, so lesson 6, we are coming to the 7th lesson soon. This is important for parents. Rules minus relationship equals rebellion. You say, why is my child disobedient? Why is my teenage son rebelling against me? That's because you have rules, but you do not have relationship. That's why there's a rebellion in the house. But rules plus relationship, you will get a response. You know, there are rules everywhere. In the prisons, just now when I visited, I used to run prisons before, there are rules. Every prison has rules. But if the prison officer and the prisoner relationship is not good, there will be a rebellion. In the classroom, there are also rules. But if the teacher and the student relationship are not good, the students will rebel. But if there's a positive relationship, the students will respond. So as a prison officer before, if I have a positive relationship with my prisoners, there will be a positive response. So you can see this formula, lesson 6. The difference is whether the relationship is positive or negative. So I encourage all parents, invest in the relationship. Build a positive relationship. Then your children will respond to you. If you always shout, always beat them, always argue with them, always talk down on them, then there will be a negative relationship and the rebellion will come. Lastly, I want you to watch this video and I will give you the 7th lesson. It has a good ending, but I know a lot of children, a lot of young people may not have such a good ending because the world is a scary place. We need to protect our children, and dads and moms need to be there for them. So the last lesson is be there for our children. No matter how busy we are, no matter what we do in our work or even sometimes even in church, but we need to watch over our own children until they are old enough to look after themselves. And so thankful, my daughter, this was about 10 years ago, I had a father-daughter bonding time with her, a baking session, and of course she gave me this Father's Day card in 2013. We're talking about 9 years ago, and when she was 18 years old. And this is what she said in the card: I really am an expensive kid, not in terms of money, maybe, but in terms of a lot of time. But you are always been there. When I needed a friend to share things with and whine to after floorball trainings, my daughter whines a lot. A shoulder to cry on really hard days, a chauffeur to keep my rides entertaining, a food delivery man to keep my tummy happy, a clown to cheer me up, a preacher to remind me to stay close to God always, and daddy to be my pillar of strength. Thanks for always being at my beck and call. I know I owe you a lot. Promise I'll get that automatic wheelchair for you if you ever need one or get too lazy to walk. You know, one day we saw this man having an electric wheelchair instead of the hand one. You know, this one was press button, you know, joystick. So my daughter remembered, said that if you ever get old, I will buy you that one, electric one. I said, thank you very much. You know, if we are there for them when they are young, they will be there for us when we are old. When we are there for them when they are young, they will be there for us when we are old. So this is a summary of the 7 lessons. Hope that has been helpful for you. And now I would like to pass you over to John. He's going to share with us his own journey and also some tips for parents. You can remove your mask.
Good evening, all brothers and sisters. My name is John. I'm from Singapore. Okay, you saw on the screen. This is my when I was young, in my younger days. I was raised up in a traditional Chinese family. My father was still is a traditional Chinese man, and my mother is a typical Chinese housewife. I grew up in one of the kampong in Singapore, Bukit Timah area. I'm not sure you guys know about this. I mean this area. In the old days, for Chinese, gambling or smoking or joining a local gang were normal and common thing. Our parents don't see any harm in all this. Even you smoke, take drug, they thought that you can just kick off, but they were very wrong. In my younger day, my house my parents let people come to play mahjong. So I growing up, learned how to gamble. So I know how to play mahjong when I was 9, and my parents didn't stop me. No, I share this doesn't mean that I'm blaming my parents for what happened to me, because my father loved us, but because he is a traditional Chinese man, usually they do not know how to express their love. Maybe they buy you some toy, or once in a month when they get their salary, they brought us out for a dinner. And my mother also loved us very much, take care of us, make sure that there are food on the table. But they don't see any harm of me joining, mixed with the wrong company. Or I start to gamble. Because to Chinese, gambling is like a small, normal activities that we always do during our free time, especially Chinese New Year. And then smoking, I see my father smoke and see a lot of his friends smoke. So I want to grow up, I want to be a grown up. So I start to steal cigarette from my father. So this is how I grew up. So when I was age of about 13, I joined a gang. I become a gangster because I like the style of a gangster. I admire them. When I was young, I saw gang crash, people chasing each other, chopping each other. To me, I was not scared. To me, it's quite exciting. I want to be like them. I wanted to be like them. So I joined the gang, and I involved in many gangster activities like gang crash, extortion, robbery, steal. Later, because of my gambling habit, I lost a lot of, I become very indebted. So I owe a lot of money, especially to loan shark. So I turned to drug, I turned to sell drug. So I went to Malaysia to smuggle heroin into Singapore. And I was caught in 1988. And the weight of my heroin was enough to hang 4 persons. So I end up in prison waiting to be sentenced to death, waiting to hang. And my mom asked me many times, why I go to sell drugs? Why this happened to her son? And I didn't know so. But by God's grace, I was not sentenced to death. I was sentenced to 28 years of imprisonment. And I'm still here today, all thanks to God's grace. So I want to say is, in the older day, because my parents, they are not educated, they did not go to school. So they do not know how to teach the right way to their children. They only know their way of loving and providing for us. Like lesson 4 just now, Jason shared. To me, he said, children see, children do. To me, it's monkey see, monkey do. And when we see what our parents do, we do 3 times more. It's like what the Chinese saying, 举一反三. Means we see our parents do, we learn, and we do 3 times more than what they do. If my father never come back for 1 day, 1 night, I think I will never come back for 3 nights. To me, is what I learned from my father. My father smoked, I smoked more than him, I smoked heroin. And my mother also don't think gambling is anything wrong, but gambling is very addictive. So that's why I hooked with gambling and all sort of, I was living in darkness. But thanks God, I'm able to be here to share about my story. So what I want to share is, you have to be a good example to your children, because children they see what you do. Like just now we saw on the video, when the father was violent, the son become more violent. If the mother ill behave or bad attitude, I think the child will be worse. So set a good example for your children. It will change their life.
You tell about your presence, how you found God.
Oh, okay. Okay, when I was arrested, I didn't know God, because then money was my God. Power was my strength. Gang was my life. But when I was caught and sent to prison, facing a death sentence, everything become hopeless, helpless. It's totally darkness. I did not have any hope at all. My parents came to visit me, they cried. I wanted to change the whole situation. It's like, I hope that I can go to sleep and wake up the next morning. It become a nightmare only. Or I do not want to wake up at all. But every morning I woke up and then facing the four wall in my cell, still facing the gallows. My heart did not have any peace at all, because in the prison that I was locked in, most of them are facing the same capital offense, murder, gun case, kidnap, and drug trafficker. So the environment was quite violent. Every day you see fight. There's no peace at all, and I was very worried and I fear, but I cannot show my weakness also, because I was still in a gang. Life was miserable then, until one day I come to know Jesus. When I come to know Jesus, everything changed. God peace come into my heart. I start to learn how to pray, how to read the Bible. And the more I pray, the more peace I have. The more peace I have, the fear and worry go away, until I have totally peace. And I overcome my fear, because I was facing the death sentence. Normally, even people come to know Jesus, when they pray that God will help them to escape the death penalty. I also the same. But until one day God let me know the truth, which is from the Bible, that to live is Christ, to die is gain. So I know if I die, where I will go. So once we know where we will go, there's no more fear. So I have the peace of God. The peace of God in my heart. So no more fear and no more worry, even though I was facing the death penalty. But God was forever faithful and graceful and full of love. So I was spared the gallows, and I was sentenced to 28 years of imprisonment. And not only that, during my years in prison, God never left me. He accompanied me, He comforted me, He helped me to overcome many temptations. And I was released about 22 years ago. And then God provided for me I have a good job, and later I become a businessman, and I have my own business, and now I employ a lot of ex-offender and help them to reintegrate to the society. And I thank God for all this, and all glory to Him. Thank you.
By the way, John also has been, God is good, isn't it? Yeah, God is so good, right? So even when parents, we don't do enough for our children, God, our Father, the perfect Father, will still be able to watch over our children and to turn them back. Even if they go so far as to go into the prison, they will still find God and turn back. In fact, John is, for the last 20 years, after he came out, 3 years later, he went back in, not as a prisoner, went back in as a volunteer. So every Sunday he will go in with a volunteer pass and he will serve the prisoners, do Bible study with them, share his testimony. And just now this afternoon, he also shared at the prisons with some of the prisoners there. So we are thankful that we can be here tonight to share what we have shared with you. I understand now is the Q&A time. So over to you. Feel free to ask any questions that you have.
Okay. Hi, my name is Yepi. I'm helping to collect all the questions from on site and also from the online. And now I'm having 3 questions, 2 from online and 1 from on site. I just want to continue from the last statement that you conclude from the story of John Tang, that how God still able to take back somebody, a child that is not even receiving a good parenting role model. Because the question is, sometimes the great parents, like if the parents like a pastor or great preachers, but they can make a broken son or daughter. What do you think, what most likely factor can make it happen? This question coming from the online, from Bapak Martin Sibaran. Would you mind to answer?
Happy to answer that. Now, the research only shows that the more involved we are, there's a higher chance that our children will turn out better. It doesn't mean that if we are perfect parents, our children will be perfect children. But what we are seeing in the research is that the more we equip ourselves, the more involved we are, the more positive we are, higher chance that our children will turn out well. The reason is this: every person, every child has a free will. They will come to a point, it's like God is a perfect God, but yet the people of Israel can still turn away from God. And that's because each of us are given the free will. And sometimes the forbidden fruit, when God says don't touch that tree, sometimes our children they still want to touch that tree they're not supposed to touch. And then they will walk away. And the other thing is that nowadays with social media, in the past, maybe when you are 12 years old, 13, 14 years old, then you go out into the world and mix around as a teenager with friends. You're exposed to a lot of not so healthy things. But now, at the age of 3, 4 years old, through social media, the world has come into the house. Our children are being influenced by the world, which means it is harder for us to actually teach them, or the church. You can come to school for 2 hours Sunday, another 2 hours Sunday school, but then out there are many hours our children, our youth are being influenced by. So I would also say that it is getting harder and harder to be a parent. So I would say one of the most important job is we need to pray. We need to pray and entrust our children to God, and then at the same time we do our very best and surround them with uncles and aunties, fathers and mothers from the church that they can go to. Even if they don't come to me, they may go to a spiritual father, they may go to a youth pastor, they may go to their cell leader, and they have other friends, positive friends, healthy friends that they can go to as well. And then in the event that they walk so far away, we don't give up, we keep praying. You know, in John's case, keep believing that one day, like the prodigal son, when they come to the senses, you know, the prodigal son story, when he came to his senses, he turned. He turned.
I hope that answer will help for us as well, because the biggest challenging that most parents currently deal with is the gadget. This is the next question from Ibu Widya. I'm not sure, Jason Wong, if you are dealing, because I am not sure about your children's age, but at this time, during the COVID, many parents struggling a lot with their kids, especially with the gadgets. And the child never hears the parents' advice. What do you think, how we can control the child who are controllable, from Ibu Widya online?
Yeah, this is now the toughest thing to take away. One of the things I would say that we need to lead by example. For example, if we are busy and sometimes we have good reason to do work on our laptop or on a gadget, but when our children need us, don't push them away and say, see, daddy is busy. Because when we do that, then they will also do the same. So modeling is important. Just now we see, children do. We give them attention. So that we give them attention and then we talk to them. When they have the intention, we go back to the gadget. So children see, children do, right? Now, the other thing I would also advise is this. Now that COVID is over, as far as possible, go out, enjoy the nature, enjoy the walk. And then when it comes to dinner time, try as adults, have a habit as a family, put all the gadgets aside if you can, and then just have a family meal, right? For my son, because I know he's a boy, he's very active. So I take advantage of his being active, join the hockey, you know, do things that will occupy them rather than stay at home in a room and always on the gadget, right? Yeah. And my daughter was away overseas for 4 years. And that was when I realized that when you are physically disconnected, you should be digitally connected. When you are physically connected, you should be digitally disconnected. You know what I mean? So when my daughter was away, physically, we are very far, but digitally, we are always zooming and talking. But once we are physically connected, sit down together, we should disconnect digitally. But it requires us to model that, to practice that.
Okay, this is from on site, which is, I would like to know from your opinion. From Ibu Dina, she's asking, what do you think about physical discipline? Because now the child protection, especially in Indonesia, they put it very serious, especially in Australia. When I was in Australia, we couldn't touch the kid, any part of their body. If not, the jail will welcome us to go in. So please.
Maybe I'll ask John to say something first. Caning, I think you receive a lot. I also received some when I was young. Is it a good thing, a bad thing? You know?
Good thing or bad thing?
What do you think of corporal punishment? Is corporal punishment, even hand?
In my younger day, I said my father also loved us. But when he was angry with us, he grabbed anything and whack. Or whether it's iron or baton or wood or table or chair, he just take and whack and chase after me. So, but that don't change me. That doesn't change me because the more my father whack me, the more I become rebellious. So because I didn't know what's wrong with that. I mean, what is right, what is wrong. Nobody explained to me. So I think just now you were saying caning. I think we no need to cane or beat our children up, but we must let them know we are punishing them. Even you take a cane and then beat on their palm, no need to be hard one. You cane them, they feel that you are punishing them. I think that is, and then at the same time you must teach them. You know, I believe in this way lah. Although I do not have children myself, I have a lot of godchildren. So I believe you can punish the children, but you need to teach them. But no need to whack them, no need to hurt them physically. But make sure that they know they are being punished and why they are being punished.
I would say that corporal punishment is always the last resort, not the first. I think our parents is always the first. Because our parents sometimes are not educated, and also their parents did it to them and it worked. And so they did it to us. But nowadays, with the research, with a lot of parenting books, I think Vinaka say also have a parenting book, a lot of people that can teach us. So it should be, to me, a last resort. You know, when I talk to people outside the prison, I say, how many of you have been caned before? So usually a few hands are raised. Then what do you all think? Then I remember one father said, I'm successful today because my father caned me. So for him is, after he caned, he changed and become very good boy. But when I go to the prisons, I say, how many of you have been caned by your father or mother? A lot of hands raised. Then they say, we join a gang and we get rebellious, we get angry because our parents caned me. So you realize, different strokes, different folks. Some of us, after caning, we become very good. My mother caned me because she loves me, right? My mother caned me because she loves me. She doesn't want me to do bad things. So a child can think like that. But another child will think, my mother caned me because she hates me. And I will rebel. So sometimes we do the same thing to different children, but we don't know what they are thinking. Because if they think that we are doing it because we love them, then that's okay. But sometimes, and in fact, most of the time, they think that we are caning them because we hate them. And as John say, we don't explain why. I give you one real example. My own son, when he was young, very cute boy. But one day he made me so angry. And then I knew that if I continue to stand next to him, I may use corporal punishment. So I resisted. I said, I'm getting angry. I will never punish out of anger. So if you were to punish your children, never do it out of anger, right? Because if it's done out of anger, chances are it will be very harsh, very painful, right? It will not be corrective. So I knew I'm going to use corporal punishment if I don't walk away. So I told myself, no. I am very angry. I will not want to punish him when I'm angry. I walk away, I go to my bed, I lie down and cool down, you know. And then my wife talked to my son. And then after that, my wife said, you go and say sorry to daddy. You did wrong. You go and say sorry to daddy. So he climbed onto the bed, climbed over me, and then he looked at me. I was lying on the bed. He goes, I said, what do you want? He said, Daddy, I'm sorry. Right? Because mommy asked him to say sorry, right? Then I say, sorry for what now? When we discipline our child need to know why they are being disciplined. You need to explain. And if they don't know, then something is wrong. Then you have to stop the discipline. Just as John say, he always gets beaten up, but he don't know why. Never explain to him. So when my son says sorry to me, I ask him, why? Sorry for what? You know what my son say? I expected him to say, sorry for just now doing this and making you angry, right? His answer was, I don't know. When my son looked at me crying, and said, I don't know, I wanted to laugh. Instead of from being angry at him, I laughed. And then I felt bad because I got angry with him and he didn't even know why I was angry. And can you imagine if I whacked him, if I caned him, he'll be wondering, what happened? Why daddy suddenly went mad? Why suddenly hit me? What's wrong with him? Right? So discipline is like that. First, we need to set boundaries. We need to explain to our children what is the boundary. If they cross the boundary, they will know. It must be that clear. And if they don't know there's a boundary, we just whack, they were wondering what happened. It's like you play football without the lines. Without the lines, you never explain the rule of the game. And the football, they kick the ball out of the line. And then you go and blow whistle, give red card. Then the football says, what's wrong? How come you suddenly give red card? We need to draw the boundaries and explain where are the boundaries. And of course, if they cross the boundary one time, we must give second chance. We must explain, hey, remember this? They say, oh, sorry, Dad, I forgot. Okay, next time cannot. Now, the other thing is last resort. I always say last resort, right? You know what? How do I punish my son when he doesn't listen to me? I will give him options. I will say, you decide, no TV or no going downstairs to play. No movie treat. Realize no caning, right? You know, all these are his favorite. All these are his favorite. No TV, his favorite. Go downstairs and play with friends, favorite. Movie treat, his favorite. Can you imagine? I give him 3 favorites. You decide which one you want to be punished by. Wow, he's so poor thing. You say, I said you have to choose one. Okay. No TV. Well, at least can go downstairs and play, right? So I don't jump to caning straight away. It's always the last result. Something that will cause pain, but it may not be caning. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, the next question. I think you explained before. This is a bit tricky, I think, for every parents, but they just want to know from your point of view, if you let your son give up that day on swimming pool, how can you encourage your son for not giving up easily in the future before he did his best? Because this is my experience. Well, sometimes we try to talk, but our son still end up, I don't know what to do, I can't do that. So
yeah. I think every person is different. For some, when you explain one time, they will know what to do. For some, you may need to show them how to do it. You know, my daughter, I would say that she needs a lot more clear instructions. Whereas my son, you just say, okay, from here to there, go. He will find his way. If I tell my daughter, from here to there, go, then she will ask, how? Turn left or turn right? Go straight or... So for my daughter, I need to give a few more steps. And sometimes for my daughter, I may need to show the way. Show her one time, and then she say, oh, now I know already. For my son, if I want to show my son said, yeah, no need lah, I will do myself. Then of course, then he will learn, he will make mistake, then he will come back. Hey, Daddy, how come like that? So different child is different, right? Some may need more hand holding. If I can summarize discipleship, discipleship is, I do, you see, I do, you do, I see, you do, I don't see. I'm doing this, so you see. Watch. And after that, I do, you do, together. Let's do together. Okay, let me show you. Okay, not bad, you're doing it already. And after a while, you do, I see. You show me? Okay, quite good. I think you should. After a while, when I'm old, when I'm no longer around, you do, I don't see already. I'm in my coffin already. Actually, that's discipleship. We need to show, we need to tell, we need to model, we need to guide, we need to coach, and then we need to let go.
Before continue to the next question, we would like to inform you if any topic that or message that question that you are asking but is not specifically will be answered by Jason Wong because of need in different section. Because there is one question from Agus Gunawan. We apologize that we cannot deliver because it's about LGBT. This is a special topic that we cannot do in here. It has to be.
You can always email to me.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer any question that is not answered tonight. Yeah, so you can get my email from Pixwan or from Yeti.
Yes. We will be sending the email address of Jason Wong after this event finished. So we apologize for the question that we cannot deliver today. The next question. Okay. How about, I think this is repetition, but maybe need your emphasizing to explain. How about if we already make a mistake in parenting and the kids already been a teenager from Ibu Yuli?
Okay, I would encourage you press the reset button. If we have made a mistake and we know that some things that we did may have hurt our child or caused them to turn away, we may need to set the reset button, and the reset button is this. I'm sorry, will you forgive me? I know it's very hard for parents to say sorry to their children, but we have to. It's very hard for husband to say sorry to the wife, but we have to. You need to go back to where it went wrong and start from there again. And the only way to do it is, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? You know, there was a real case. I was in Malaysia speaking in the church, and after that, the pastor was supposed to send me to the airport, and one of the fathers volunteered to send me. And so in the car, at least 1 hour to the airport, he said, you know why I want to send you? I said, why? I thought you are very helpful, want to volunteer. He said, no, now I have you 1 hour. So that, because in the church, there was a long queue, a lot of people to ask questions. I have 1 hour to talk to you. I said, sure, talk to me. He said, I have this problem. My son has turned away from me. My son is angry with me. My son doesn't want to come to church. Then I said, do you know what happened? He said, yeah. Because after I became a Christian, I brought my whole family to church. And I brought my son to church, sent him to the children's school, but he didn't enjoy church. He didn't have many friends. So along the way, he didn't want to go to church. But I told him, it's very important. You must go. So when he's old enough, 18, 19, 20 years old, he said, Dad, sorry, I'm old enough. You can go. I don't want to go. And I said, since you know what was the problem, why don't you apologize to him? He said, I did. I said, you did? When was that? He said, 2 years ago. I said, what do you say to him? Because I wanted to know, because if you say sorry correctly, usually there will be reconciliation. Because he said for 2 years, still never talked to the father. I said, how do you talk to him? How do you apologize? Oh, he said, I said, son, I'm sorry. I forced you to go to church. But you must understand, it's good for you. Right? You must understand. No, I forced you to go to church, it's good for you. So when I listened to him explain to me what happened, I said, do you hear yourself? How you say sorry? You're actually giving excuses. You're not saying sorry. He said, oh, is it? I said, when you say sorry is, son, I'm sorry for forcing you to go to church. I mean well, however, I know it has hurt you. I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have forced you. Will you forgive me? And then you wait. You wait. Chances are the son said, let me think about it. And you let him think about it. And if you would like him to really think about it properly, you may want to write it down. And give all, maybe it's not just for saying to church, maybe for shouting at you, maybe for not showing up when you needed me, maybe for always quarreling with your mom, and maybe there are a lot of things you need to say sorry for. And then at the end, will you forgive me? And then you leave that with him, maybe for a few days, maybe for a few weeks, and let God speak to him. Let God speak to him. I know some children may take years to accept the apology. And it's okay. At least we have done what we can to press the reset button.
The last two questions before we closing. Some studies say nowadays children are not as resilient as the older generation. Because now it's the millennial generation, right? I'm coming from the X generation, and I'm sure that you are from different my generation as well. So does that mean we should not train them to be more resilient as the older generation? This is from Fahadi.
Yeah. Earlier I mentioned giving children permission to fail. I think every generation will need to learn how to fail, but to fail forward. And the best way to learn resilience is to learn how to fail forward. A person who has never failed before, and sometimes as parents, we are so protective to the point where our children never have a chance to fail. And suddenly when they become older, the first failure, they don't know what to do. And fortunately for my own two children, I think when they are pretty young, they fail, and we were there with them, we were there for them. I think also for younger generation, the world is probably getting a lot more challenging as well. So they are going to face a lot more pressures, a lot more competition, environment issues, social justice issues. It is more challenging for them than for my generation. Yeah. I think what we can do as older, wiser, we need to be there for them, to encourage them, and at the same time, when they fall, we are there to support them, to cheer them on.
Thank you. Because even though my parents, just share quick, my parents were good parents, but they were not there when I failed a lot. So it was tough, and yeah, we learned a lot how to be a better parent, to do the good parenting. But still, this is the next question related with I just say that we already set clear boundaries and rules, but kids keep forgetting and breaking rule over and over again. Even though we remind them, but we become nagging parents. How to coach overcritical and rebellious teenager. Even worse, sometimes we overwhelm and think that our kids took us for granted. Sorry, sometimes I did that to my kids. From Pak Hartono.
Yeah. If you have done your best and your child still not listen, then you spend more time praying. Pray that even when they go so far, God will be there. And when they fall, God will be there. And God will pick them up and send them back. We are only entrusted. I always say, a mother and a father, we are like factories. God is the designer. God designed our children. God is the one that brings our children into the world. We are just stewards, entrusted with these lives for a season, and along the way, we need to release them back to God. We can never look after our children forever. We cannot control them. We can only model, we can only teach, we can coach, we can help, but sooner or later, they need to find their identity, their own life, their own destiny. But if they don't want to, they don't listen, and they also reject God, then it will be like the prodigal son. We just have to pray. Pray that when they turn, God will be there and God will bring them home. And we should be there. You know the attitude of the prodigal son's father? When the child comes home, the father never says, "See, I told you so." No, get lost. No, the father embraced the son. It is the older brother that rejected the younger brother. So we must never be like the older brother. We must be like the father, of course, God the Father. And of course, I work with a lot of prisoners, a lot of ex-prisoners, and I saw how God, even when they enter prison, God is still there waiting for them. Even as father and mother, we cannot shape them. God will send a volunteer counselor. And maybe by reading this book, it will change some of them. which have. Yeah. So God is the perfect father. And he will never let his children go so far that he is not there for them.
Thank you. Prodigal son actually telling the good ending, but the process before the ending was tough. It was very painful and sad because we don't want our children end up like prodigal son through all the the wrong process, and then even though in ending, would like to like our hope that our children will get through all the normal process, but also they know God closer to them. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So it's finished for our Q&A. I give it to John for the closing.
So first, we want to thank you, both John and Jason, to become our guest today. And then just want to inform before we close in prayer that we have books that actually written by Jason Wong. They already translated in Indonesia. You can bought there, or you can contact me, contact the EAP, the one that with us with the question and answer. So let us.
I have also brought along only 20 copies. So there are 10 copies here, English version. If you prefer to read the English version, there's an English version.
Yeah.
This is a translated Bahasa version.
Yeah. So I invite Reverend Rowan to pray for us.
Let's pray together. Loving God, thanks for the opportunity we've had tonight to hear from Jason and from John. Thanks, Father, for the ministry of encouragement, of wisdom, and just wise words and wit as well as they've shared with us tonight. Thanks, Father, for the road and the journeys that you've taken them on that they've been able to share with us. Father, we pray tonight for parents and for parents-to-be who have joined us. Father, we prayed you'd give them wisdom, grace, courage, discernment, and trust in you, that you will care for them and be with them and their children as they grow together. Father, protect them and their children from the evil one. Father, we pray too for families under pressure. Draw them closer to you and bring them hope, bring them healing, and bring them restoration. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.